Let me just say that I'm reminded of when you said earlier today that you're not a quitter. You never quit. And so many of the people that you heard from today are people who never quit. That's why this Educare Center is happening. They never quit. And I'm reminded always when I think about never giving up about a man named Korczak Zielkowski. Did you ever hear of Korczak Zielkowski? Anybody know who that is? Nobody. Perfect. I can say almost anything I want now. You'll Wikipedia it and figure it out, if you can spell it. Korczak Zielkowski, in the 30s, was a sculptor, an unknown, relatively unknown sculptor, won a small award in New York, received a letter from the Lakota Indians saying that the federal government of the United States was going to build a big monument, Mount Rushmore, a big monument to white men, right on the land of the Lakota Indians. And they didn't think that was very fair and thought that what would be fair is if there were another monument, a monument to one of their great leaders, Crazy Horse. So they asked Korczak Zielkowski if he would commit himself to designing and building a monument to Crazy Horse. Well, the only problem was the Lakota Indians didn't have any money, and they didn't have any private backers, and all they had was a real desire to honor somebody very important to them. But Korczak Zielkowski thought this was a pretty important endeavor, so packed up everything, moved out to the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, pitched a tent, designed a small model of Crazy Horse. If you've ever seen a picture of it, it's Crazy Horse with his headdress pointing, riding a horse. And by the way, he designed it to be 10 times the size of Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore fits under the armpit of Crazy Horse. Now remember, Korczak had no money and no help, but moved out there anyway. All he really had was a little bit of his own money with which he began to blast away at a mountain. He had to find a mountain and then blast away at it to the point where he could actually shape something. So he began blasting away at the mountain. He was in his 30s at the time. And he blasted away and blasted away at the mountain into his 40s. And he blasted away into his 50s and into his 60s and into his 70s. He got married, he had a family there, built a cabin, kept blasting away. Never quite got to shaping Crazy Horse because he was alone doing it year after year, decade after decade. And at some point in his life, Korczak Zielkowski knew that he wasn't going to be able to finish Crazy Horse in his lifetime. And yet he kept blasting away, blasting away. And then one day, Korczak Zielkowski died. The question you have to ask yourself is, why did Korczak Zielkowski keep blasting away when he knew that he was going to die before it would be completed? Why? Kept blasting away. Well, there's only one reason, and it's because he believed in the cause. He believed in the mission, and he believed that if he kept at it year in and year out, decade in and decade out, that it would eventually be finished, maybe not by him, maybe by his children. And you know what? His children took up the cause, and his children ultimately have gotten to a point where they can chisel the face of Crazy Horse. And if you go there today, you can finally see the face of Crazy Horse. It is beginning to take shape. And over the next 30 years, they will complete it. 30 years, they will complete it. They shaped the face. Well, you know what we're doing here today? We've shaped the face of early childhood education. By building this Educare Center, you begin a movement to change early childhood education in America. That here in Parkside, Kenilworth, by your initiative, you are going to change the face of not just early education, and I'll take up the mayor's challenge, education and learning. That this is a start. So I want to thank you for allowing so many of the funders, the Buffett Early Childhood Foundation, which Susie Buffett isn't here today, but she's here in spirit, and Dan, by your representation and your leadership, You do such a great job, and I want to thank you very much. And I want to thank all the other funders, of course, the Kellogg Foundation and Sterling Sparren, represented here by Joelle Jude Fontaine. Doris Buffett, where are you, Doris? Thank you so much for your commitment and for building an Educare in Maine, and now here building one here. You are a star. And by the way, my new best friend. And I want to thank George Kaiser and the Kaiser Foundation and his daughter Emily for representing him. You must be very proud of your father. And I want to thank all of you, because it is because of all of you that the face of early childhood education, like the face of Crazy Horse, is being presented here today. Thank you very much.